Okay, a very good afternoon to all of you, and we will allow people to participate till 2:05. So we have still 4 or 5 minutes left. So whoever wants to join can join in within this period. After that, we will not be allowing anyone else to get in. Okay, so in the meantime, we will get started and I will let people in till 2:05. So from time to time. So today in our review, what we will be doing is, so we will be looking at the areas of vertical and horizontal communication. So that is one part which we will review along with the other classifications of communication in business. So if you look at the screen, you will see that business communication can be divided into two large heads. One is what we call internal communication, and the other is what we call external communication. And as the name suggests, even if you have not studied about communication, any layman would be able to say as well that internal communication is that which happens internally within the four walls of the organization amongst people who are direct stakeholders of the organization, like the management and the employees. On the other hand, we also have external, communication taking place, and this is the communication that happens amongst the external stakeholders of the organization. And who are the external stakeholders? A long list of external stakeholders. We have the customers, we have the business partners, we have the vendors of all kinds, we have investors, shareholders, banking partners, okay, the general public, government. So, it's simply an endless list. Environmentalists, community leaders. In other words, anyone who has something to do with your organization. He or she has some interest in the organization. Right. So again, internal and external communication can be further classified into two heads, and they are formal and informal. Though we all know that most of the communication or the conventional communication that happens in organizations is on a formal basis, right? But there are a lot of communication that also happens informally, right? And this also happens externally, which means that we sometimes officially communicate with our customers and our vendors, but at the same time, we also communicate unofficially, informally with our customers and our vendors. However, all of you appreciate that with customers, with suppliers, with vendors, shareholders, governments, there is no high or low. There is no hierarchy involved here, right? However, in the case of within the four walls of the organization, there is hierarchy, which is there. Okay, so which means that some people are in senior positions, some people are in junior positions, some are in the middle management. Okay, so there are there's a lot of hierarchy. So since there is hierarchy, communication also happens across hierarchies, right? So just like in your family, your father, who is the supreme boss, perhaps in your family, he communicates with you, okay? You are perhaps the youngest son, right? And at the same time, you as a younger son or the youngest member of the family also communicates or shares a lot of things with your father. So the same thing happens in an organization. There is hierarchy. Managers communicate with subordinates, and similarly, subordinates also communicate with managers. Okay, we will not allow anyone else after this. We are already 2:06, so please ask your friends not to attempt joining again after this. We will just allow whoever has come till now. Right. So we see therefore that downward and upward communication takes place. Senior manager communicates with someone down the line. That's downward communication. A junior officer shares some ideas with his boss, upward communication. Similarly, we also notice that communication happens at the same level. So we have a manager in sales department having an interaction with another manager in the sales department. In fact, this can go beyond the departments. A manager in production can have a word with a manager in sales. They may be discussing about quality expectations of the customer, and that could be a very fruitful cross-functional communication, because it's the marketeer who is facing the customer. He knows what the customer wants. And it's the production chap who is responsible for the ultimate quality of the product. So if you as a marketeer are able to give him the customer's expectations, then he can definitely make a product which will match your customer's expectations. So very important that the production guys and the marketeer has an interaction all the time, right? So this is the case of lateral or horizontal communication, and it's happening across two different functions. But when does a diagonal communication happen? It happens when there is a communication that is happening between two functions, but they're happening at two different levels. So you have the production head having a chat with a junior in the marketing department, or the HR head having a chat with a middle-level manager in the production department. So wherever different hierarchies are involved and communication is happening between two different functions, we may refer to such communication as diagonal communication, right? Now, what we were trying to tell you is, and what we have done in our original classes also, and that is, see, communication happens officially. right? Communication happens formally. But communication also happens informally. Okay? Communication happens unofficial. And in fact, there are many studies which suggest, and perhaps rightly so, that in many organizations, or maybe most, informal communication supersedes formal communication in terms of quantum, amount. And I think, you don't need to get into rocket science to understand this. Just imagine yourself in an organization, interacting with your colleagues, interacting with your seniors, getting different things done. And if you just keep a record, perhaps, of a day's interaction, you will see that perhaps 20 times you had communication with someone. Maybe on 4 or 5 occasions it has been official. The rest of the times it's been very informal, very unofficial. Okay, we do a lot of things over WhatsApp these days. Now, how many of these communication that happens through WhatsApp you can attribute as official? And how many you can attribute as unofficial? I'm sure you will see that 80 to 90% of it is unofficial. And sad part is that very official communication, like sacking someone, is also happening through WhatsApp. Okay, now that's another story. So when we look at informal communication, it is happening all the time.
Excuse me, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Jaiswal. Sanskar Jaiswal. Yeah, tell me.
As the thing is that, sir, I'm receiving around 10 to 12 messages from our classmates, sir. So they weren't able to join because of the network connectivity. They are still waiting in the waiting room, sir. Can you just add them, please?
The issue is we are already 2:15, so I really don't see the point why people are coming in so late. Anyway,
Sir,
I'll just look at it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, this is the last lot we can let in. Let me see if there's anyone in the waiting room. I've just unlocked the meeting for a while. Okay, I just see one person in the waiting room currently. That's Shruti Dalmia. I hope there aren't any more.
ACR is waiting, sir. Adnan Ahmed Malik.
Okay, we now have 2 in the waiting room. There's Adnan and there is Shruti.
Sir, add him.
Okay, we'll just give a minute and just ask everyone to get in quickly so that we can finish this off in a minute or 2 and then continue with our revision. Just have those 2 still. So I've just let those 2 in. Okay, let's let's get back to our discussions. So as we were revising that the informal form of communication is indeed a very important form of communication, because this is the communication which, it actually helps you to feel the pulse of the organization. So if you are a communication expert, if you are knowledgeable in communication, then the kind of communication that happens amongst employees informally, that will help you to gauge the health of the organization. If the organization is suffering, if employees are highly demotivated, if they are frustrated, they just want to leave any given moment if they get a better opportunity, then you can see it in the quality of the conversation that happens, okay, between the employees. So that is the reason why we, not just as communication experts, because communication is the lifeline of any organization, as managers, as practitioners, we must keep a tab on what's happening in the informal chain, what's cooking, as they say, right? And again, there is no right hand thumb rule regarding, as to what we should allow and what we should not allow, right? How much of informal communication should we let happen and how much we should not happen, or should we not let it happen at all? There is really no right hand thumb rule to decide on this. We will have to take a decision on a case by case basis. There is no fit for all sides here. For example, if an organization is in dire straits, if the organization is, having a whole bunch of employees who are unhappy, frustrated, demotivated, lot of backbiting going on in the organization, employees are jealous of each other, okay, on a given opportunity they would pound each other's flesh. If such is the case, then naturally you need to deal with it very strongly. Perhaps in such situations you do not need informal communication, because informal communication you have no control once it starts happening, and so it can further vitiate the ambience. So when things are unruly, things are indisciplined all across the board, there is no need for any kind of informal communication. Okay, we keep hearing that, look at India, we can't deal with different situations, we're fighting amongst each other, this group blaming the other group, this politician blaming the other politician. And sometimes we say that better if we had army rule for 5 years, as one of our, brave soldiers, Subhash Chandra Bose, had, prescribed at one point. So why are we saying this? We are saying this because things are highly, in a state of indiscipline. People don't listen to anyone or each other. People don't listen to their governments. People don't listen to their administrators. People don't listen to anybody virtually. Everybody is a leader on their own. And therefore, in such situation, if you allow more of this grapevine to happen, there will be more of gossip, more of rumors, and things will get worse. So you need to deal with this with a strong hand, an iron hand, as they say. Okay. Similarly, if things are going, porky-dorky, things are going just fine, everyone is happy, the sales are, you know, increasing every month, right? Our brand is becoming more and more popular. You have no problems in such situation to allow some informal communication to happen. Okay, it can actually let you understand what the employees are feeling. Sometimes when things are very good, going good for the organization, there are instances where employees may feel कि भाई कंपनी तो बहुत अच्छे मोड़ पे है, ये हमारे जो प्रॉफिट्स जो है ये भी बेहतर होते जा रहे हैं, मगर प्रोपोर्शनली हमारे हालत देखो, क्या हमारे तनख्वाह में कुछ हाइक हुआ है क्या, हुआ भी तो कितना हुआ, कैसे हुआ. So these kind of grievances sometimes employees tend to have. And if you allow informal communication to happen, this can actually ventilate out and you can therefore, correct yourself. So if you have really not paid attention to improving the well-being of your employee, for whatever reasons, you can now actually do that. So therefore, grapevine is good, grapevine is bad. We have to leverage for our needs. Okay, so very important that we have a proper strategy in place to manage grapevine. And just to review once again the different forms in which this happens. We have the single strand chain, that's a linear format where one person goes on to say something to the other person. He or she in turns transmits that to another one. So it all happens in like a straight line. Okay, so that's the single strand chain. Then you have the gossip chain where you have one person who is the center of attraction, and you have the others as if seated around him on the rim of a wheel, and he goes and shares information to each and every one of them, and they will also give their feedback, of course, in the process. So this again is a common format which we observe in families, society, in local communities. Okay, you will see the para dada sitting like this, and along with all his assistants. Okay, we can see this even in the country. The panchayat leader or the sarpanch, as we say, sits under the tree, and all his assistants around him, okay, chatting with him, right? And you also have the probability chain, and as the name suggests, that this is a random process in which someone transmits the information as per the laws of probability. So you don't look at whom you are transmitting the message. You just need to transmit the message, period. So it has to be done randomly as per the probability chain. So here, obviously the target or the goal of the people behind grapevine is to ensure that the information reaches out to as many as people possible, right? So they are not very interested about to whom it reaches. Their goal will be achieved by numbers, quantum. Okay, तो अगर समझिए 100 आदमी को वो पहुंच जाए तो कम बन जाए. It's like, तो उसमें कितने मैनेजर है, कितने कोई फंक्शन का है, इससे कोई मतलब नहीं. जस्ट इंफॉर्मेशन को पहुंचना है, राइट? और फिर apart from probability chain, you also have this cluster chain. This again is just the opposite. यहाँ पे मतलब है किसको पहुंच रहा है. Okay, so that is why what the promoters of this particular chain they do, they are selective कि किसको शेयर किया जाए. तो वो मन ही मन में स्ट्रेटेजी बना लेते हैं कि किसको किसको शेयर करना है, किससे काम बन सकता है. ठीक है. So that is the cluster chain. So it's not probability chain. It's nothing to do with probability law. This is a case of convenience sampling. Okay. So all of you have done some basic statistics, so you know what is a convenience sample and what is a probability sample. Okay. Now, the other area which I wanted to review, very, very important in any exam, anywhere in the world, when it comes to communication, this is one area which, examiners, moderators will never oversee or overlook for that matter. Okay. And that is barriers to communication. In fact, I refer to barriers to communication in a larger context these days. And that is enemies to communication. All the conflicts you see happening all over the world today, if you look at the core, there is some barriers to communication. अभी आप ये कोरोना को देखिए, अगर ये हमारे चाइनीज भाई जो गवर्नमेंट में है वहाँ पे, अगर ये थोड़ा एम्फेटिक होता, थोड़ा इसका मतलब प्रैग्मेटिक होता, तो ये करेक्ट टाइम में इसके बारे में बाकी देशों से इंफॉर्मेशन शेयर करते. बट ये नहीं, कुछ बैरियर था, एटीट्यूडनल इश्यूज था कि क्या था, और इससे अभी देखिए कितना धमाका मच गया सारे विश्व में. ये अमेरिका में देखिए जो हुआ, अनफॉर्चुनेटली जॉर्ज ऑसवाल्ड, जिसको मारा गया, पुलिस मार दिया बेचारा को, और इसको मारा तो मारा, और इसको मीडिया ऐसे इसको प्रोजेक्ट कर लिया कि एज इफ दिस इज ए वॉर अगेंस्ट वन कम्युनिटी. एंड सी what has happened after that. There's rioting taking place between the communities. Arson, loot is happening. So everywhere in the world, whatever conflicts are happening, it is happening because of these enemies of communication, barriers to communication. Okay, and इनमें कमी नहीं है, वो ज़्यादा है ये barriers. And we have studied all these barriers, right? So in fact, I think you can do a little analysis today after we finish this class and when you have time, कि ये कोरोना और ये हमारे जो US में जो राइट्स हो रहा है अभी, ये इनमें what are the barriers which have been in play across? Okay, I'm sure you will find a whole lot of these barriers applicable. Okay, so in physical barriers, we know there is poor equipment, there's poor infrastructure, background noise which comes into the picture. Emotional, psychological, attitudinal barriers, a huge number of examples. Anger, sadness, obviously these two have been very pronounced in most of the world conflicts that happen these days. People are very angry. Okay, and when they're angry, then naturally, no effective communication can take place. If you're nervous, okay, how many times have you been successful in an exam or an interview by being nervous? I'm sure the percentage would be hardly 1% or 5%. Because nervousness is an enemy of communication. And exams, interviews, these are also formats of communication, specialized forms of communication. Okay. And then you have language. The very difference in the language creates a barrier. अभी आप किस प्रदेश से हो, वहाँ पे कैसे वो भाषा को बोला जाता है, उससे भी बैरियर होता है. Slangs. There are occupational or professional jargons. So the doctors, they will have a lot of jargons which common people don't know. Engineers will have jargons which others don't know. Hoteliers, jargons we don't know. So there are professional or occupational jargons, right? Like if you are studying communication now, if you say a layman what is communication barrier, he will not be able to understand. Okay. So physiological issues are also there again. आपका physical health related जो problems वो भी impact होता है उसको, इसमें communication. तो आपका दर्द हो रहा है कहीं, आपके शरीर के किसी अंग में दर्द हो रहा है, तो उसका भी असर communication में होता है. क्योंकि अगर आपका कोई दर्द हो रहा है, इसका मतलब आपका जो mental condition जो है, it is not right. Okay, you're not in the right frame of mind if you're having a pain in some part of your body. So you will not be able to communicate effectively in such situation. Okay. Then there are issues related to structure design and how the organization structure is. That also creates gaps. So sometimes we notice that the way the organization structure is laid out, ये कम्युनिकेशन के लिए ठीक नहीं है, तो उसके लिए आपको वो डिजाइन में चेंज करना है. ओके, सो देयर आर कल्चरल इश्यूज आल्सो, स्टीरियोटाइपिंग, जैसे अभी वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट रेस रिलेटेड इश्यूज, कम्युनिटी रिलेटेड इश्यूज. और फिर आपका ये सेमेंटिक्स जो है, दिस इज आल्सो अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट सोर्स ऑफ नॉइज, बिकॉज सेमेंटिक्स इज अबाउट अटैचिंग डिफरेंट मीनिंग्स टू सेम वर्ड्स, same sentence, science. ठीक है, तो अगर हम simple words न use करें, okay, if we avoid using jargons, then we can take control of this. But if we don't use simple words, we rely on complex words, then semantics will happen. People will take different meanings. Okay. Okay. We are running out of time. So one area which I wanted to review today, along with the older areas which we have covered earlier, and that is the different types of memos. And the most common form of memo is a request memo. It's a memos, as we know, is an internal document which is used within the organization. It has no legal implications. It's just a communication format which is used by the employees, right? So if you want to make a request, like for example, this gentleman called Hardesh, he has made a request to his boss regarding participation in a time management seminar, and this is what he writes. Okay, so he writes, may I attend the time management seminar that is being offered by the Chamber of Commerce next Thursday? Thanks. Now, naturally, no one is going to listen or rather approve this request memo, because this has nothing, no information at all regarding what the seminar is, how much money is involved, why it is required by him. No area has been highlighted. However, if you look at this revised memo by Hitesh, here you will find everything. It tells you in the first paragraph, कौन organize कर रहा है, participant fee कितना है. तीसरे paragraph में देखिए, उसका कंपैरिजन किया गया है दूसरे जो सेमिनार इस टाइप का होता है उसका क्या कॉस्ट है, और ये दूसरे जगह पे इसका लोकेशंस है, तो उसका मतलब है आपको होटल में रहना है, उसके लिए फिर एडिशनल कॉस्ट है. तो पूरे के पूरे जस्टिफाई किया दिया गया है क्यों इस सेमिनार में आपको अटेंड होना है. 500 रुपीज एंटायर डे against 2,000 to 2,500 per day plus hotel expense. And most interestingly, he has given the reason why he needs this. It says in the second paragraph, I have been working without an assistant for the last 6 months, and this seminar will help me improve my productivity. दूसरा कोई एम्प्लॉय अगर इसके जगह होता तो ये डिमांड करता कि भाई हमको सपोर्ट दो, एम्प्लॉय रिक्रूट करो, ये करो, वो करो, मगर ये उस लाइन में न जाके, okay, he has humbly submitted to the management कि भाई you improve my skills, I will do the needful. So request has been stated clearly, reasons for the request has been given, financial costs shared correctly, right? And he has used a lot of diplomacy and tact. In fact, this very idea that he is suggesting that we upgrade his skills over appointing someone else, this itself is a master diplomacy. Any boss, any management will be happy. Okay. So you have to be very strategic. Just like when you ask for anything from your father, you have to demonstrate a lot of tact and diplomacy. The same thing applies in the case of your boss. Okay, we are now almost less than 1 minute. So we'll quickly go through another memo. This is a confirmation memo and very nicely written. Okay, confirmation memo essentially jots down everything that had been discussed in the previous meeting. So very nicely written in this example, every point in a different paragraph. So this is largely about salespeople being appointed. So tells us what their salaries are going to be like, where they would be stationed at. Okay, and most importantly, at the end, there is room for feedback. Okay, in case any point needs to be added or deleted. So that opportunity must always be given. This is just like a minutes of a meeting.